Ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to another Crypto Maniacs podcast. Always for your viewing pleasure on vim.tv, uploaded on 3speak.tv. And you can also listen to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and all those really cool places where all the cool kids hang out. Speaking of cool kids, we've got Taskmaster 4450 checking in with you, sir. Before we reintroduce our guest of the day, we got to check in on Task. How you doing, Task? You okay? You buying and selling on the greens and reds or what?
Just threading away, man, threading away. I'm very disappointed in John G. Olson's threading content. He is slacking. I think you need to up your game there, buddy. You're spending too much time on Web 2.0, I think.
Well, I do. I really don't, man. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day, and I literally told them that I use Facebook to post pictures of my kids. That's basically what I do for Web 2.
Better than using Facebook to post pictures of other people's kids. That could
get you into trouble.
Yes, that's
Right.
better. Yes.
Yes. We have Elindo's back from Exode. And it's been a while since we've had him. So welcome back, sir. I give you a golf clap and everything. Good to see you. Hope everything is good. And I'm going to mute myself because everyone's coming into the house right as soon as I start the show.
Yes, thank you for welcoming me here. Thank you very much. And yes, it has been some time already. We have worked on many things. We are like locked into our developer cave, working on stuff, deploying features. I don't mingle much with the rest of the world, so to speak. I mean, I don't go out to major social events and stuff like that because I feel like immersed, and being immersed is good in the world here. In the world, we have some kind of future world here in Exode. And I feel that we have to deploy so many more things too this year. I mean, we'll get over what we have done so far, but we need to do so much more. So it's not yet the time where I can mingle, but still there is a big social event coming as well, and we are going to speak about that too. And yeah, I'm in Berlin.
I'm just muted myself just because it's pretty crazy in here. So that's why I'm not saying anything. So I'll revert to Task here. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's probably close to a year, maybe 9 months since you were on. And last time you were on, well, before we get into where the project stands, for those who are new, for those who have been here before but forgot, why don't you give us a quick elevator pitch, a quick summation of what is Exode, what inspired you to build it, and what is your vision for it in terms of not only with Hive, but with the entire play to earn blockchain gaming type realm? Well, just give us an overview of Exode. So for those who maybe are hearing about it for the first time, they can understand what it is.
So Exode is a science fiction game, which is available in your browser, even if you have client versions, where you take command of a spaceship and you try to evacuate citizens on whatever resources you can get and get to the new galaxy. On there, you will discover your own planet and settle there, just like other players in an unknown galaxy on an unknown planet, discovering so much procedural contents and inventing maybe your own medicine, your own fuel, your own food. And of course, trading it, which leads us to blockchain as well, meaning exchanging things for other things from other players on other planets. We'll get to that too, because these are very features we are going to release this very year.
So when you create, and I don't know the right term, let's say an ecosystem, because that's eventually what I believe forms around many of these games in my limited looking at games. Of course, there's limitations with the traditional gaming realm in that you're basically locked into the game itself. You shut the game off, all your assets are locked up, all your communications are locked up. The only way you have interaction with people is in the game itself, and then everybody goes on their merry way. But if I can understand blockchain gaming, not only do you own your assets and whatever in-game resources and weaponry and tokens and whatever is acquired, but you also have the opportunity where if I'm interacting with John in the game, because we both enter with our Hive account, I can interact with John outside the game. So now we're essentially talking like you were talking, you don't get out much because you're always coding. But now you're talking about the sociability element of this game. You have the economic element and the financial aspect of the game through the assets and the tokenomics. So you actually have an ecosystem. And how does that idea change for you as a developer when you're putting this together, saying, I'm creating more than just a game here?
Yes, it's true. And that's where Web3 is even surprising us, developers, when we are involved into the thing, because there are so many things which have not been done yet. Games with ecosystems, there could exist some. But when we take a look at other games which propose an economy, we notice that when the resources are known, identified, and I would say finite, meaning that you have one kind of metal and someone has the metal, someone has not, and the value of the metal drops or gets up. But there is only one kind of metal. People need the metal, people need the food, etc. And there is only one asset represented. In that case, the market value is really hard to understand for developers who go into that kind of games, because they have a responsibility to maintain player value, the value of that thing, and players who want to make money, they produce the metal and they sell it, so the value drops, of course. If the entire purpose of the game is to make money, then of course value will drop. The purpose of the game is still to be a fun, immersive game, to have players playing the game for what it can bring, and keeping their assets for what they need in the game, and using it for the big mysteries that is still to reveal, still to unveil, or the chances to come. And with Exod, what we do is that players invent their own resources. There is a kind of procedural content to what you create, meaning that your metal is not like the other metal. So you are the only seller of what you make on your planet. It can be compared to other metals running so many properties. We have dozens of properties and assets. And our second year was more into testing that. But you are your only seller, the only seller of your thing. That's where we are a bit different than other games with an ecosystem. Now, getting into a game on blockchain, this is about player ownership. This means that you own your game. That's why we chose to represent our cards, our assets as cards, because it makes so much sense to trade them with the players or to send them to the players. But you own your cotton. That's the first thing. And then when players trade with each other, the publisher, the developer is not here, meaning that players can earn money because they can trade with each other. That's why every game developed on blockchain must propose this feature for players to be able to get in, players to be able to get out, and giving them freedom. So yes, games like this give a lot of freedom. That's why regular publishers may be reluctant to get into that, because they think, okay, but next year, what do I sell? If I already sold you something so good that players make 30 times the value by selling it to other players coming, then what do I sell? I mean, ourselves then as developers making a blockchain game must consider that the game is there to last. Not say after 6 months, oh, I'll waste some money. Now it will cost me so much more to make the game, actually, so let's repel. So many guys are doing that. I mean, that's why one of my main purpose when I go to social events like the upcoming Berlin is to speak about ethics in blockchain games. I think developers making blockchain games should understand ethics, should propose ethics. I mean, why do we have so many audits of people, of companies who have never done blockchain games? So, I mean, when they pay audits, who were these guys auditing the game? I mean, do they understand an economy like blockchain do they really understand what this means? Do they understand what the utility of an asset is inside the game? Does it have anything or not? This is what they should audit. So developers should really be responsible about player value, what they propose, and consider that the game is there to last. It should last many more years than a regular game. There is this game, Diablo 4 is coming like next month, but there is one Diablo every 10 years, okay? So developers should maybe think that the game should last maybe at least 10 years. I think that's the duration they should look at. And for blockchain games, it could even get longer, 20 years, 30 years. Why not look at Minecraft instead of other games? I mean, for the example they should have in mind and for what they are making.
You brought up a really interesting point, man. When it's so funny because of the parallels I see not only in Web3 gaming, but also what I've been doing for 20 years in online business and stuff. And I always said that it's really, really easy to do something like this, launch something new. Because when something's new, like everyone goes to it. Everyone's really excited and it's the new kid on the block and it's really a try and I gotta go, and there's FOMO and everyone goes into it. But what you said is so true. The hard part is to maintain it, is to keep the excitement, is to keep it building. Because most times what happens, I don't know about in gaming, but especially in my business, is instead of maintaining programs, website owners and business people, all they do is they just start something new. They forget about the project and they just start something new. It's like cryptocurrency, the meme coins. Like it was Dogecoin and then it became something else. Now it's Pepe. It's like, instead of building what we've got, how do you find that as a game developer, how hard it is to maintain that level of consistency where instead of just getting something new, you're always building it?
It's true that all players, and I would say players, maybe instead of investors, but people also invest. I mean, it's really true, and it's good that they do that. Our players, supporters, investors, and all of them are also sensitive to the global blockchain market. So when blockchain drops, they feel a bit different. But that's where we discover that when we tie your assets to a game, on a game tying its value in USD, for instance, instead of whatever coin value we may use inside the XOD itself, I mean, just to rely on USD and peg it to that, players see that it is resilient and it begins to contribute to that lasting game aspect that I was trying to convey here. They see that it is resilient because contract packs are still sold for many more values that they were purchased for. Boosters, everything is like that. So, and that's even without having released the part where they earn money with playing the colonization part. So even after years, it's still resilient with that. So that's a proof, to me, that's a proof that developers who commit to a lasting aspect on their games really reward their players with it and should feel rewarded for that. Now, regarding raising funds, because developing needs funds, like every year you try to bring some funds, and this year I have recruited developers, so there is more of that need. I think that usually blockchain has proven that we raise far more values than what developer costs are to make blockchain browser games. Okay, so that's so true that it should not even need to be said to our people out there. I mean, when some games raise millions of dollars, so browser games do not cost millions of dollars to make, but you can try to push your ambitions up, to step your ambitions up. Instead, we see that after 6 months or 1 year, some people rug pull. So that really should not happen. And if you want our games to be proposed to larger distributors like Steam, the Steam catalog, I mean, Steam has proposed itself against blockchain games so far. But if we want these guys to trust us, we need to show our ethics and lasting game value helps to have fun games which do not cheat on people and propose something so good that they will not resist and accept that. So we really need to push up. That's why I keep speaking about ethics. Before I was using words such as deontology or whatever word. I will keep saying ethics now. But because developers can still find the funds for their game and their ongoing development because it is blockchain. There are new things here. So it's very innovative, I mean, and people know that. It can really scale up in value, even by demand, just by opening things and saying, oh, you can earn money there. And then you have a lot of people coming. So the reason we have not done that call for players now in Exodus saying, oh, all come earn money right now by clicking on that button. The reason we haven't done that is because when you start having so many players coming before you have brought up the features and the utility and testing them correctly, you fail to have something, a lasting economy. I mean, that goes in a circle where people, like someone makes food and he tries that for medicine, and that other guy tries that for ammo because he has a lot of guns and took that guns from another guy who has a Rocketron, which is a corporation that makes weapons in their game. And he purchased a lot of Gatlings that shoots a lot of bullets, so he needs ammo. So you see a circular economy. And we have all the assets for that to happen, but we need to make sure that the features are right. So that's why it takes some time. And then when you add people, of course, the value will increase like tremendously, but we'll have to see if something is stable in player needs and the economy being used. And since we are PvE also and not PvP, we have an advantage here because people are all in a cooperative game. I mean, when you have money, it's good that for us in Exodus strategy game, I mean, PvP games work really well, as Peter Nozzles has shown that it's good. But in our case, we are PvE, meaning that players are all together instead the global threat of the aliens. So that's an important part that makes all players contribute assets together. And I think it's also very positive for us, even artistically. I mean, game developers are not only technicians, they are also artists. We need to propose something emotional to players, something looking good to deepen an experience here. And this part is also nice. So Web3 is really something big. We just need to make it proper and to understand how lasting it is.
We have a question, Alindos, that may be a good time to jump in and toss this. This is from Jimmy Adamas. Coming from a non-gamer, did Splinterlands lose its luster a bit, and has that been a negative or a positive for other game projects on Hive? What would you say? I guess there's two questions. First thing is, do you think Splinterlands lost a little bit of its luster? And B, is that a positive or a negative on for other games on Hive?
I think Splinterlands has really shown a way, where one first game I discovered which really use USD as a peg value, and tradition and vision that really opens the doors for the developers to understand how a blockchain game should be made. So, I mean, there could be so many other Hive games to propose, and Hive games also work together, like on advertising each other or speaking about each other if we feel. That's also still my point. I still fall back to that point. That's really hard. That's like I have a word on my way. I mean, if we feel that the other developers are really of the same mindset, the same aspect as I discussed about lasting value and ethics. I mean, I don't want to advertise for other games on my game for games that are like in a Ponzi moment. I want people to be protected in their investment. But I think Hive games can really have a thing to propose here by advertising each other. I think if Splinterlands is going, it has been, like the number one game, I mean, worldwide. So it can go up and down. It's still a big game. So we just should make sure that other Hive developers come up to propose new experiences also to people to be complementary to what Splinterlands proposes. As I said, Splinterlands is PvP, so there is room for other games. There is also FPS, it is known, which is PvP, but ourselves in that we're strategy PvE. So there is room for a lot of experiences. The game market, Steam, and the thousands of games coming to Steam has proven that there is room for more games, always.
Yeah, I think, and this comes across like John was relating it to his traditional business, if you will. We see a lot of this in the social media realm. And my view is with the games. The problem I see, and you tell me if I misread the play to earn market, is if you look at social media, you look at tokenomics, you look at Web3, you look at whatever umbrella we call all this stuff, everybody's focusing on the tokenomics. And, what it is and how to set it so the price go up and things like that and get people excited about that. And I think what's missing is utility in terms of an application, let's say social media, that people love, a platform that people love, or a game that people love. Because at the end of the day, if your game is boring, people will do it for the tokenomics so they can earn some stuff. And if it gets more popular, and let's say it's Ponzi scheme, you drop it to somebody else, and the next dummy to spend money on it, and you cash out, and it was like, okay, that was worth my time. But if you have a game that's just kick ass, the tokenomics are secondary. And I think that's the problem with this Web3 umbrella. We haven't crossed the Rubicon where we get, hey, Joe, you have to play this game because it's kick ass and a lot of fun. And oh, by the way, you can earn some rewards that are actually yours. But now it's the exact opposite. Hey, come to this play to earn game and you can get play for gaming. What's the game? Oh, I don't know. It sucks. It's boring. But at least you can make some money. And maybe I'm off on this, but I think that's really where the game, the application, the platform, the whatever that breaks through on that's going to be the cleanup mechanism.
I think you are right here. Is that something I answered before? I did not reply correctly to Jeremiah because he said as a non-player. So I keep speaking of the game, of course, because I love the game. A gamer is make games, so I'm a gamer as well. So I make games that are passionate for me. But he asked for a non-player. On blockchain as that, there are non-players and players. And that's why you are trying also to understand. I could speak about Exod all day and all year, and it is another Exod feature, but this is about staking. About staking, that's where players place assets, click on a button, and this gives some utility to the assets that they have, and they earn some tokens and currencies. So in staking, usually the aspect is passive, meaning the players is not playing the real game, he's playing another thing where he places assets. We did not propose staking so far, because we are more involved inside the game. But what happens when you don't have the time, if you are just an investor, if you have like thousands of assets, and you want maybe players to rent them or to use that differently? So we really need to understand games in blockchains. That's what you said also before, John. There's that difference too, that there are also players with assets, but who are not like involved players playing all the time. So we need to understand that. Yes, as you say, Taskmaster, games should be played, but there are people investing in games in blockchain, and we need to think about that too. And regarding staking,
if I could step in yes, on that, and you bring up a great point, and it's one I really didn't think about. So yes, you have two sides of the equation that you have to think about when developing this. But I guess my point is it appears most are approaching Web3 or blockchain gaming of thinking about the investment first. Do you as a developer, maybe let me ask it this way, you as a developer, do you first focus on your design of the game and say, okay, I'm going to create a kick-ass game, and then interweave the tokenomics through it to then satisfy the non-investors, as opposed to either trying to do them both at the same time or go in the other direction, say, oh, I got to do the tokenomics first, then I'll figure out what game I'll build?
I focus on the design and utility of assets, and really everything follows through then. And this is the same for investors. When they look at the games, there will be people taking some packs because they are unique, because they produce something unique and they see it will be useful. And others will see that the value goes up and some others will be interested by the value going up. But the real thing starting it for us is because the pack proposes something new. And this is why we design it. Now, it's true that people may lose this picture in their head when they look at games. They look for the coin of it, the currency of it. They look for the value of the coin. They look at the trend of the coin. They look at so many things. But ourselves, we think that blockchain will really follow in value, in valuation, which is a better word of it, if you propose something good. That's the simplicity of it, actually. I mean, that's crazy. We can work on some. I'll explain to you how it started in Exode. I mean, some years ago, I pitched a publisher, game publisher. It was focused on Interactive, on Paradox, about the Exode concept. At that time, there was no permanent player death in games, so they were thinking, oh, well, we can lose characters, permanent death. Oh, because roguelike games were not so popular. So, yeah, we were a bit hesitant about that. Focus on Marketing was interested, but saying, oh, but you are a small studio, you need to have more games under your belt, like one another, and would follow through then. But they were not that interested. But when I pitched the concept to the blockchain community, okay, to Hive, when we started three years ago, it was funded. So when I made some demonstration scene and made the evacuation scene the first month, about 14 words a day, but it happened. So when you have a vision about a game, or are committing on something creative, just work on it, show it to people, it will get funded. We can get funded by players, so we can keep our creative vision, keep our vision of the game, and we can work on the game, on utility. And blockchain makes everything already innovative in how assets interact with each other, meaning that there's entrepreneurship, it will work in so many new ways already. You can keep having an idea of a game, but the game on blockchain, and will still propose something so much new compared to existing games. I mean, we don't compare Exode to Mass Effect or a game, okay? That's not what we propose. We propose something very immersive. We have our qualities, but we're not comparable to full games like that. We will be maybe someday, but not yet. But instead, what we do is propose something with blockchain, and blockchain enables so many more concepts and usage of assets. We could have so many more concepts actually existing on blockchain. So developers can still work on their creative concept and just release it, give utility, and value will follow. I'm still convinced of that.
Something that you guys did that, probably one of the first blockchain games I ever saw, you put a big emphasis on the look of it. Exode has probably got some of the best graphics you're going to see for a blockchain-based game. And back when you guys started, that wasn't normal. Like it was, it was very, what's the word I'm looking for? Nintendo 8-bit graphics. Like that was kind of what it was like for the majority of the games. But slowly you're starting to see more of an emphasis on graphics. And I think this plays into what Task was asking you, like, what do you focus on? Do you focus on the money side of it, or are you focusing on the gameplay side of it? I believe personally, and I'd love to hear your input on this, in a game, graphics are very important. I mean, you can have little idle games that you don't have to make it look pretty, but I believe personally that when something looks good, it's going to attract people. What do you think about like the look of a game? Not necessarily the playing of it, but the actual visuals.
I think players really need to be immersed and to have an impact from the game aspect. Meaning that just like when you watch a movie, you receive something impactful, and it is an experience for someone watching the movie. There is a before and after, even in some kind of minor or major way, depending on the movie, on the experience. So that's what we try to do. I mean, life is short. We need to make something of it, and we need to bring up something new to the table. And it's like an artist vision about it. I think we are pretty much alpha artists as when we are really involved game developers or indies, at least indies, maybe not larger companies, but indies that must be like that. They're passionate about what they do because they want to bring some experience, so to have something impactful. And yes, I'm really passionate about that. It's true, I can use cheaper methods like music. I'm really passionate about exam music. Just like Evoline has good music, we really wanted to have some. And it's really surprising that so many developers don't try it because some things don't take so much time. It takes a bit of commitment, a bit of vision, but bringing some music in your browser game, I mean, it's not difficult, but it's important, contributing to the experience. And that aspect makes you a game. There are so many things to do, but making game first is what's important, in my opinion. And it's as if some developers do not think what they do as making game. And that's why what you asked as master about, do we work on the game, do we work on the tokenomics, is so important. I mean, so I have a message to tell developers is work on your game. It's a game you make. It's not a bakery. I mean, you are making games.
Yeah,
Sure.
I would say you have the proper approach, and this ties into the monetary aspect, or even more, the economic and ecosystem aspect. I kind of opened up with because I think this is very, very important, and it's something that's so misunderstood, especially with currency. And I have these debates all the time with people. People talk about currency in US dollar because it's a petrodollar. What's backing, the US government, or what's backing USDC or whatever. And at the end of the day, that's not what brings value. What brings value is, I'll use the term, the economic productivity associated with the currency. Well, with a game, that's a little bit different. And the term that I would use there is more tied to, let's say, network effect, and have the ability for users of all kinds. And with blockchain game, you can get users who, quote unquote, users who are players, users who are investors, users who are speculators, users who are maybe bettors, if you can add some betting into the game and gamify that. And so you have this ecosystem of people who are all drawn, but what's at the nucleus? The nucleus has to be the game. Because if you've developed the best tokenomics in the world and the game sucks, you're going to lose the players, which that makes everything else for naught. And so that's where I think when you start to talk like you did, and like you have, to your credit, since the first time you were on Cryptomaniacs a couple of years ago, you have been consistent with your outlook on creating a game that has interest to the players, designing tokenomics so you don't end in, we had one show that was basically talking about Ponzi gaming, where it's just, these games turned into a Ponzi scheme. If you got in early, you make money, you come in late and forget it. You're hung out to dry. And I think that all ties into what you build around these different assets. And the goal is to incorporate the assets into the game that people are interested in, and not just have assets that end up going up in price and have scarcity on the market, not scarcity in the game. Two different things. It may be scarcity in the game, but plenty of them are available. But because of certain power-ups or whatever, it doesn't have a lot of utility in the game versus some others, or it has a great deal more utility in the game versus some other of the same assets. So that's where I think your approach, from what I can see, and I don't know who else is out there, but your approach seems a little bit different.
You spoke about the value of a currency, and in the real world, the value of a currency is what you can do with it within a country. That's what has been analyzed. I read articles about that recently, meaning that the value of something is really what you can do with the currency. And people seem to forget about that. It means they take a coin because they will try to sell it later, which is their approach, which is okay. But ultimately, what will bring the stability, the real value, or the coming value of something is really what you can do with it. So that's why we work on what we can do with a currency before raising a currency. See what I mean? Because if you had dollars but you had nothing to do with it, like there is no shop, there is no store, there is no house, there is no one using dollars for anything. So of course, the new goal is to trade it for the other things that we use. So utility is really the dominant part first. What you can do with it.
When you look at developing a game like Exo, and I'm going to go down the marketing hole with this. Obviously, the idea is you want to get more and more users, but obviously, you have a development timeline, and that's why you have alpha or maybe even pre-alpha, alpha, beta, and then you have production release or whatever phases your development goes through. And obviously, the early stages, your pre-alpha, your alpha, is very limited in features. It's buggy. You want people playing it to give you feedback of A, what features they would like, help in maybe the direction of design, but B, more importantly, where are their problems, what's not working, what's taking place from a what I call an extermination standpoint, trying to debug everything. So when you look at unrolling a project, and you and I don't know, we go back. I mean, the hard fork from Steam was over 3 years ago. We're talking probably 3.5, maybe even 4 years now that we've kind of gone back and forth. How do you unfold your production schedule with your ideas of marketing, and how do you size up when you get to the point where you say, okay, I have enough features, this is stable enough, the game is stable enough, now I can start marketing to try to bring people in? How do you balance those two?
It's true that in my case, I may have been too slow on activating player goals regarding the investors or people who would like maybe to make a quick buck, so to speak, meaning that packs have increased in value, like some contract packs were sold for 30 times more than their lowest value on release. So there is valuation, but people, I mean, I did not activate player growth yet. And this is what happens in Berlin in 1 month. Berlin is a major Web3 event, and Welcome is there, and we'll make Exot public for the first time, meaning that not only shown to us 5 people, not only shown on my blog, but shown to other people from other blockchain, making itself known. And this will be the first time for it. But before this happens, we have a 1 month roadmap to upgrade evacuation website, to propose other currencies, to propose new tutorials to make people know how to install Keychain with a tutorial for that, to make people know how to open the starter and what their cards are, and new people for that. So there are many tutorials we're going to make for this, and then we will focus on colorization. We'll have more players. We'll have enough players to test things. We don't want to have too many players for the utility being provided, but we work on the utilities, and meaning player-owned shops, players able to propose their own stuff and having their own local currency for their planet. So we're working on a lot of new things. And when it will be ready, we'll activate more player growth and try to bring in more people. I think that proposing that we accept other blockchains for their first payment to their purchase of a Hive icon, basically, and purchasing a starter in Exodus, so makes us create the Hive icon for them, is good for player growth. And then when you want more player growth, maybe you connect to the marketplaces on export assets, import assets. That's not something I like to go into fast, because I think it's good to focus on Hive too, and to try to think, okay, how do I bring utility to Hive as well? And how does Hive bring me people? Do we have enough people on Hive to support a game? I think we can. I think Splinter also has shown that. But do we have enough people on Exo to fund the beta? I think we need more people at that step, actually. Need to be cautious. I mean, as soon as we activate play to earn, meaning not only the assets taking value, but also earning currencies and trading it, there will be like a massive number of people coming. And at that point, we need to make sure that we don't Ponzify, meaning that we keep bringing utility and players coming at one point, whatever point it is, we still find something positive, stable, good. And I think we'll have the number of layers we need in Exod. Something a bit newer. So in Exod, you have cards. Use the cards to set up your new game. Like we decide on the regime we play, the starship we play, the crew you want to put in. And then it creates characters, game characters, procedurally from that with their own statistics, attributes, background. And you play with these assets. These assets you can lose, but you never lose the cards that generated them, okay? So we have separated markets. There is a card market. There is the game creators and game assets market. So, and there will be player-owned shops with their game assets too. So there are separate layers that, to me, seems to guarantee that whenever someone comes, it will still have a stable card valuation. Okay, if characters can die, characters cannot die, but it still have a card valuation because there are so many layers of utility already. So yes, we are compatible with some player goals already, and I've been maybe too slow on working on that, on working on more marketing. When we do Exod, you may have noticed with the music, the art and stuff, we're a bit perfectionist. So we're still afraid that something is not good on us yet. We have a lot of complex things that are not well explained. I always know that. I mean, whenever I have a to-do pile like that, thinking about, oh yes, I must upgrade that, I must upgrade that. I want to do some of that before bringing more players, and this is what Berlin will be.
Where would you say the game is now in terms of that progression that we just said? What are you in alpha still? When are you looking at going in beta, or if you're in beta, when you're going into full production? How close are you to having a production level? And maybe production's the wrong word, and I'm sorry if it is, but in gaming, but a mass release, maybe that's a better term. How close are you to in your development being at that point?
So it's true that we always kept a roadmap to be in release stages. So everywhere I draw the steps to get there. The first year we reworked on evacuation, market, and many other features that we released. Card opening, new character backgrounds, refined evacuation. The second year we work on scanning, collision paths, calling game actions, away teams, so many features, and planetary dangers. And I think every year we really mature on what we have done before, propose a new interface for colonization, better usage, new ideas for player shops and player economy. We are going to now take what you call technical beta. That's what will be happening in Berlin. It's a grand opening of our technical beta. I call that a technical beta because it's a step between alpha and a real open beta where we want to welcome all and every people. Just call that a technical beta to say, okay, there may be still some things to test, some bugs, some missing features. I still draw a roadmap making, and I recruited developers this year to make sure that by the end of this year, we'll be able to say, okay, we have our colonization features. We are testing space features even, which is the next step when you take your ship and go back into space from your planet and explore other planets. We are testing space combat. I haven't seen what space combat, but we know we need a landscape view. So I'll release that after the interview, maybe to our community to show, hey, let's work on that, and show more features. So I still make a roadmap to have that ready by the end of the year. Now, the problem I had with Exod is that I'm in indie, and you know about the perfectionism of scenes, the artistic approach, meaning that we often refine what we do, often polish what we do. Normally, it's really the right approach because if we go from scene to scene without polishing anything, you end up with a mess of scenes and you haven't identified your unique selling points, your unique playable content, and you start to not be able to make it a good game. See what I mean? So you need to keep control of that because when you go to mass release, people judge you for what you are as a game. I mean, if you speak of Steam, for instance, suppose we get to Steam, we can get to Epic Games Store they could be like the equivalent of a mass release, but a major mass release will be if Steam accepted blockchain games, or if we make something that look like we pay a game for 15 euros and we can play it on Steam, and then players could see that yes, it's connected to blockchain, but it's invisible for them. So if you speak about that, we need to be judged as a full game. That's why maybe the positive approach that we always source ourselves as a game. And for that to happen, we really need to keep the perfectionism we add, and of course the feedback of testers, but also new testers. Something about player growth and making the game ready for release, that you need new testers to have new eyes on your game. Even my eyes. I mean, when I recruited developers, something I did, like when preparing the roadmap to Berlin, said, okay, you test the game, all of you, send me your feedback on the website, send me feedback on the evacuation, and we'll work on all that. And we need new players also to get that feedback, because our veteran players are already used to what happens. You need to see where the problems are, because every time you get new players, you get a new audience, people who are not used to that. People would expect, I don't know, an Involvine, or people will expect, I don't know, Starfield this year, or that kind of experience, and we'll compare that to that kind of game. So people who are non-players as well get more of that. So we need to make sure these people can really understand what is happening. So in Exod, that's why we are working this month on the first things, and on tutorials, on explaining ourselves better, and making it better for new players. And it's true that we have a tunnel of features. Getting into colonization is when we succeeded in evacuation, then you get a planet, then you get colonization. But we focus first on the first steps now, and then we'll focus on deepening colonization. I think we don't need to have all features before we go into release, but we need to have a game loop, meaning to be able to play colonization every day and see the events happening on the characters and see something fun there. Every time something new, something that challenges you. Sorry if I get long answers. I said I could speak all year about Exod. Sorry, John. So well.
It's good you're so excited, because that's the key, is the passion. And something that came up that I would like to throw by you. This was also a comment by Jimmy Adamas, and he brought up the point, watch to earn. And we know that the idea of watching people playing games is becoming more popular. Platforms like Twitch and stuff like that, I think, have excelled at that. What is your view of that? And is there a market ultimately for watch to earn? I guess if you are somebody who invests, if you're somebody who has some assets, and then you are betting on a player, or you have some stake with the player or something like that, you obviously are going to watch with a vested interest. How do you see that industry shaping up? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's one of the innovative points about blockchain and Web3. We can really make it work. Now, if I compare that in the world of Exod, if I think about Exod and watch to earn, because I can tell you that outside of that, it can really work. I really see that happening. But I'll take an example from a blockchain game like Exod. So when we are using staking, we said there are active players. Active players are commanders commanding Starfleet in the game and protecting star bases from evacuation by commanding more massive fleets. Okay, they use that from cards, allows them to create more ships, because we have too many cards for one colonization game in Exod. People have hundreds of assets, and they can play multiple colonization games, but that's not the point. A game should be involved on inverse, not having 100 games happening at the same time. So we need to propose with staking utility for a larger number of cards. So players could use their cards to create ships and use them in Starfleet. These are commanders, but they can also open recruitment points, we call that ghost fleets, for other players to play their assets. So there is one leading player and other passive players who can just contribute their assets to that guy. So it's like one guy playing the game really and trying to win his battles, and others who are like supporting him and placing their assets on that guy. See what I mean? So we have for this aspect of staking, this is called exode missions. It's a major concept that we worked on since January with some test entry on that. People can retest it in HTML and see the stuff. So, because that's the showroom. So for that aspect, the player can share mission reports and players can watch this report. Okay, so maybe we'll make that compatible with more social accounts, Twitch, whatever, for players to contribute things. And maybe there could be currencies that a player earns when his game is seen. And maybe we could see the most successful commanders and have a leaderboard on that and have rewards about that. So what I wanted to convey here is that yes, there is value to give to leading players showing their game and their game content. But for that to be nice, I think there needs to be like strategic value to what he's doing, player skill showing up somewhere. I mean, of course, I can speak about other social stuff, like someone doing something like he does on TikTok and doing whatever thing on camera. Here I speak about someone playing and showing his game. Does that adequate to what we're expecting now? Does it go a bit beyond?
No, I agree with you. Actually, I think what is so fascinating is you take the concept of gaming, of a game. There is a lot of stuff we can build around this, whether you use the term economy, whether you use the term asset management, whether you use the idea of betting, you look at watch to earn, play to earn, staking, investing, all of these components, then you mentioned earlier shops. And so now you get into a whole entire realm surrounding the game. And dare I say, for it's a little better to say this word now than 3 years ago when everybody's hyping the shit out of it. But when you start to look at the metaverse or the multi-world concept, you're kind of designing that to a degree around Exode, because you have this game that is the centerpiece, and then you're building all these other factors around to incorporate other people who are not necessarily players. If I go to most games, I got to be a player. If I don't play the game, maybe I could go find somebody streaming it on Twitch or something like that, and I could watch them and say, "Oh, gee, this is cool." But outside of that, what participation do I have? I don't have any. I have no vested interest. But with what you're describing and these different facets, we'll use the term Web3 as the umbrella to capture it. With Web3 and gaming, blockchain gaming, whatever you want to call it, you have the ability to develop all these different avenues. And when I say you, it's collectively, because it doesn't necessarily have to be you, the developer. The community can develop a lot of this stuff too. If there's a coder who says, look at what they did. I mean, we started with Splinterlands, and what was that other thing, John, that the peak monsters or whatever, where you could sell your cards? That was developed by somebody not in Splinterland. So you can have these marketplaces open up around these assets, around this game. And that's just really fascinating to me.
I think what was really interesting here is that we talked about having a game, so having gamers to play that game, but also having other kind of population involved inside the gaming universe, the game universe, and the game assets. And they need to find something to do here as well. And that's what a blockchain game should do. That's what the Web3 project should do, like focus on all these kind of people on usage. And when you do that, everything is going so much stronger. If you have a strong game with player skill, being able to fail or to succeed, because Exode is also a game that by all people looking at it from modern game design, people saying, oh, you must always succeed, you must have only one button, you must, go forward just by your simple actions. No, it's not like that in Exode. Exode, you can die and lose the game during evacuation even. But it's part of the thing, and it works. It's part of our unique situations. But back to what I was saying, when you focus on the different audience, it really can make everything so much stronger. That's what is going to happen. I think the most successful games are doing that and should do more of that.
Yeah, I don't know enough out there of what other blockchain based games or Web3 games are going. I mean, I just have a curiosity following of Splinterlands, and basically that's just what people write about it on Hive. And outside of that, I know there's some other things. We had Bob the Builder on, who's involved with CyberX. So there's a lot of cool stuff being developed, and that's a shooter game. So another, like, you have space exploration, and shooter games are probably your two most popular gaming arenas. And so far they've been overlooked from what I could see in the blockchain world. So it's good to see that being addressed on Hive. Uh, but like you said, there's plenty of room. And when you look at, the hundreds of billions generated globally each year from gaming, it's enormous. I mean, it's bigger than a lot of countries. So it certainly is something to target, and a great way to create even more wealth, because you get average people involved. And not only are a few corporations making the money, it's a lot of other people.
You see, something on Exod is that it had the role-playing base before. That's why we have so many different factions in Exod. I love to deepen one faction all the time. And I think if you think your game also as not multiverse, but having a lot of angles to its universe. I mean, a lot of possible angles to it. You can also develop new game aspects to, I don't know, have, I mean, you could have a Starfleet fight battle game happening in Exod, but you could have a role-playing happening in Exod before the destruction by the aliens. We could have so many more things. For now, we have a lot of work on what we must do already. But what I want to convey is that blockchain games can also get an extended life, like an almost infinite life. But what is more rare, I really don't like to speak about what we do in Exod like that, because it's a bit not humble on us. But what is more rare is committed developers. We work for years and we'll continue to work on their game. And that's what people really need to understand. We can expand games, but we need people to be committed always into that. Look, so that's why I really want about ethics to maybe have a third party to say, okay, in this game is about making quick bucks. This game is about investing and seeing the value last for some years. This game is really about play to earn. This game has not activated yet play to earn. And to analyze games with a more broader auditioning of every aspect that we start to know exist in blockchain games. We start to know it exists. We start to know play to earn exists. We start to know, etc. But you need to analyze also when something is not complete in utility, meaning, okay, you can earn this currency, but with this currency, you can only increase the currency you get. And so it goes forward like that. You only increase, you invest and you increase the currency you get, but you have nothing else to do with that. So that's a problem. So people, I say third parties because must not be the developer speaking about themselves, because then it's marketing. And I think it really would be nice to have that. And I don't know if that's a question I have for you guys. It should be a proposal to make such a scheme exist, because it needs time, of course, to make the analysis of other games like that. What should it be? How to make it happen? That's one of my questions here. How can we make an ethics board reviewing games happen? And maybe in Hive, we don't need that as much because we have committed developers on Hive. It's made by creators speaking of the game on the blog and being upvoted or not about their games. So they have to defend their reputation because of the social aspect of Hive. But we need that in blockchain anyway. We really need that. I think so.
I think something that like all of these games could benefit from, and here I'm going to say this in tasks. Watch his eyes. You're going to see them light up behind his sunglasses. But what's really unique about these games on Hive is exactly what you just said. There's a social aspect.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the apps that's out there that I see as this massive opportunity, and you're seeing Woo really take advantage of it now, which is that new game, the wrestling game on Hive. They're using Threads. Leo Threads is like this no-brainer to get a community to support and get behind a game, to talk about it all the time. And the community aspect plugs right in. It's so effective. For, first of all, it's marketing. It's like dirt cheap marketing. You don't need to pay for it, but more importantly, it makes people in the community feel a part of something. And you have this application like Threads that's just literally tailor made for these games to get out there, to be talked about, to be shared. Like, for example, the CTP tribe, like my tribe, we don't have a game. We just started putting the hashtag out. Now we're in the top trending topics on Threads, because people have just started throwing the tag out there. So if you throw the tag out and you start getting people putting Exode in the tags on Threads, and people are talking about it, taking screenshots of their matches, their cards, that's a really cool way to really tap into the community aspects of Hive for Exode. Just when you were talking about it, I just thought of it just there.
I think, to answer your question, Alindos, and to carry on from what John said, and you've done a lot of it. I think if I'm thinking about a game on Hive and wanting to be a part of the community, like you're saying, okay, the first thing is access via Hive account. You have to use a Hive account to access it. Now, you can obviously use other mechanisms to sign in, but ultimately, you're going to have a Hive account to have your assets and that type of thing. So I think that would be number one. What John was saying is blogging and getting involved with the community and upvoting, users who make posts about and stuff like that. That's another wonderful thing. I think when you build an exchange or a shop or whatever term you want to use for your in-game assets, I think a great way is for people to, because if you're using a Hive account, now you're tapped into the Hive wallet system, HBD. I mean, there's a built-in stable coin to this ecosystem that has zero fees and is ideal for peer-to-peer transactions between wallets. So I think that's a great way to incorporate that into whatever is being built, where you just have, when people are selling their assets, they're swapping them for HBD. That is putting that as a center point. And then, like I've heard Ragnarok saying and stuff like that, they're going to use HBD savings. They're going to use HBD as the entry fee for tournaments. They're going to pay out rewards in HBD, things of that nature. And so when you start to look at that, if everybody starts to push a little bit more value in terms of utility to HBD, that makes their games even more valuable. That makes their in-game assets even more valuable, because they're, in effect, through an exchange or through a store, connected to that. And, I think going back to what I said early in the show is exactly what you're saying, is that social aspect is I can go against John in Exode. Him and I can go back and forth, even though Exode's really not a first player battle type game, but you get the point. But then we can leave the game and we can interact on Threads. We can interact on Hive. So I think when you start to look at some of these other aspects, where if I'm not a gamer, but I have some assets in Exode, I know John. I see John. I've seen him on the blockchain. Now I see him in Exode, or I see him talking about Exode on Threads, and I'm like, well, what are you there? And he said, well, I'm a pretty good player. I won, this, that, or the other thing. It's like, okay, I want to stake on John. And so now I'm not just staking on a leadership board or anything like that. I'm staking on his reputation, that I know him. I've seen his tweets. I've seen him bragging about it. I think he's not just a jackass braggart. He actually tells what the scoop is. And I say, okay, I'm going to take a chance on John. I think that's something that could be really built in and integrated for games such as yours. If you think about this from that aspect and say, okay, I got my game design. I know where I'm going over the next 18 months with the game design. I got the tokenomics design. I know where I'm going over the next 18 months. So now you start to think, okay, how can I incorporate different parts of the Hive ecosystem into this? Whether it's social, whether it's features of the blockchain, whether it's layer 2 stuff coming up, whatever the case may be. I think that's the winning formula.
It's a good point. I really think about integrating more ability for players outside Exod to see what Exod is doing, what Exod players are doing, and starting with Hive. And speaking of Hive tools, I'm integrating during the roadmap to Berlin the iShare service, Hive authentication service, and more tools. But I think about how to integrate automatic publication of posts of what you do on Exod, mission reports, combat reports, or the player shops. I think player shops should be accessible from Twitter, whatever you want, and you see the thing happening. And of course, you need an Hive icon somewhere if you want to interact with that, but there needs to be several ways for players to expose what they do. And that's where we'll have growth, by showing what you do inside the game.
John mentioned Leo threads, and in our threadcast, which we have a threadcast for the show, I'm Farm Girl. She made a comment. She went to your site and she said the graphics are amazing. You could take screenshots of Exode and drop 2, 3, 4 screenshots a day into Leo threads because your graphics are amazing. So they are going to be fabulous pictures on there. And you could do that out of the Exode account. You just have to do it 3 or 4 times a day, a snapshot of whatever aspect. And you keep doing that over time with the Exode tag and get people to comment. And maybe, then people will start talking about it. You'll start to get some people seeing, hey, this is something that's really amazing. A number of people in the threadcast said, I've never heard this. I'll have to check it out. And John dropped the link to your game. That's just an easy way to support threads, but to use it as a simple marketing tool of just copy and paste a screenshot over and drop it in there, and boom, you're good to go.
It's true that we have a lot of untapped potential here, and players who could be interested into getting more, or getting into Exod, or getting more of Exod. We are going to reopen access to beta packs now very soon, in the coming weeks, even before Berlin. And when we'll get more features to attract more of our Hive community, because I think many Hive people still don't know about us. They could be interested in knowing more about Exod. And during Berlin, we'll also show some Hive content, because we have a game, and some Exod content to players who don't know anything about it. And we speak also about ethics, and maybe they don't expect that. Going back to that point, I think something important in blockchain is trust. In finance is trust. Even not in games, in finance, they need trust. So they need to know not only what these guys, but not only what they are doing, but will it last? Will not be rock pearl in 3 months, for instance? What is the vision about it? How does it connect? What is the potential about it? So that's what we are right now. We have done many things in Exod. Some things are to complete, of course. A lot of things are to push further. But we can have a lot more users, a lot more people could be interested in Hive. And this is really the year where we want to connect with, to test several things, to expose what you do in your game, to show it to other people. And I think we'll see something really happening. We asked about the roadmap to mass release. I don't think we should rethink about, having a date where we open a shop for the people to access Exod right now, but not later, but not before. I think we'll go also with a progressive usage, more exposure, more, because you can have also visibility tracks and see where users want to go further and can refine that. And once we have that refined, when someone does something in Exod, you have the proper way to show it. And you find the proper way to show it. And you see more Exod players and committed players, not just people following Exod but not knowing what to do, but committed players coming in. It will really take shape, because that's what it is when you have several things in Exod. You have crew, you have ships, you have software, you have implants, you have weapons, you have ammo, you have many things. Once some committed players get there, he wants to have access to that. He wants a weapon, he wants stuff, and everything reacts to that. And the community, since it's PvE, want to help him understand it. So it really works well together. So I think we have a lot of potential. I think what we share today, what we discussed today, is really part of the vision that we will work on this year.
Well, I think what's tied to that trust, and I did make this comment in the threadcast to somebody who said I didn't know about this, and I said I really FOMO'd in during the hard fork from Steam. That's over 3 years ago. So I think when trust, part of trust is developed simply by the fact, Lindos, you've been around for so long. You know, as we said earlier, we've been conversing for 4 years. So, you know, I think that's a lot of the trust with Hive is people who've been around, even if you haven't been in the spotlight. I mean, they can go to the Exode account and see when it was set up and see how long ago it was and when you started posting and that type of stuff. And I think John's absolutely correct. If you want to take it to the next level, Leo Threads might be a way just to take snapshots of your game, which is incredible looking, and just drop them. And you don't even need to really talk about it. Just say, Exo tag, drop the picture, leave it at that, and you keep doing it at a time. People are going to start asking. Keep some of the mystery there. So what's next for Exode before we wrap this up? What's next for you?
So regarding the social aspect, we have community managers coming up. People will handle our Twitter account. People will make attempts at sharing things on YouTube Shops. We need to upgrade our visual sharing aspect of short scenes, a few seconds happening. So they need to see some of that, and we work on upgrading that. We are going to open our technical beta and to open access to beta packs and to beta starters, which means new regions to play with new starships and new crew, new factions as well. And there will be then the card opening system when we start to open the new contract pass, beta contract pass, beta boosters as well. And today we work on the road to Berlin, upgrading evacuation, proposing new tutorials. And after Berlin, which is June 10th and 11th, where we'll make a speech there about game ethics and about Exode. After that, we'll get to work on colonization and our deeper features. And we'll integrate our staking system, our mission reports into publications, like on Twitter, on those threads, which we mentioned today. We try to automate or have a way for people to push a button and publish things there on their account with some tags, and we'll see how it works. And we'll deepen colonization during quarter 3, and then we'll see if we have completed our roadmap. For that, we have new developers this year, so it's a bit different to work with several people. I lose a lot of time in meetings, of course. And so something we have worked on is our own framework. So that's why we are trying to be able to release more stuff, because we're really finding a way to propose a framework for blockchain games, and we are using it internally. So it took some time, and sometimes I had to pause on that when I was alone, because pausing after 2 weeks or 3 weeks, not releasing a new feature on Exode, I was feeling bad. So I stopped working on the framework and started back working on the features. But now that we're several, it's starting to pay off. So understanding also how you make a game as an indie, because you need to be fast. You don't lose the time people may be losing when you are a 100-person company, in terms of features. Starting to be better organized and to know what you do is starting to pay off here. And we hope that thanks to this year, while we're starting to make Exode known and be public, people will be amazed at how it will really shape up. And not only in the evaluation, because that valuation will go up, of course. As soon as we bring more players, there is valuation going up. But also in terms of the vision of Exode being released. So really, I think it was a great moment we spent here, because we could discuss many unique points that are in Web3, but also in blockchain games. I really want to thank you for that.
Oh, for sure, man. Dude, don't make it 9 months before you come back. We'll try to get you in a couple of months here to get more updates. And appreciate you, man. Appreciate you coming by, sharing with us everything that you're working on. And again, for people checking it out, exo.io is the website. Go give it a look, and it's inside of Threads right now. We put the link up too if you guys need the link too. So, sir, appreciate it, and thanks for stopping by.
Thank you, Tasnata. Thank you, John. And yes, I'll be happy to come back and share you the news after Berlin.
Okay, one final thought for everybody. Thursday, we will be putting up the Threadcast early. It will be John and I question and answer session. Next Tuesday, we have a reversal next week. Next Tuesday will be Threadcast early, John and I question and answer session. Next Thursday, we have Cal from Leo Finance. Then the following Tuesday, we have the CTT guys. So that's the next 4 episodes. And Alinda says, always, to echo what John said, let's not make it so long in between visits. We always enjoy having you on. You are one of the long-term projects that I have some money in, but I'm keeping an eye on because I think you're building something spectacular.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.